Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is Renee Garcia, and this is your superior self.
Renee, I cannot wait to talk to you tonight.
All right. I know, I've been excited for it too. I kind of have a feeling it's going to be cold.
It's gonna be fire. Um, so all right, so we're gonna be talking about tran I guess it's reality transurfing.
Reality transurfing. Yes.
And you're kind of like the girl who knows a lot about it. I mean, you have a YouTube channel, you're you're partnering with the guy who wrote the book that is talks all about reality transurfing and what it is. And I had a really interesting. I wanted to know more about that, So we had a 30-minute conversation prior to this interview or this conversation, just to kind of get a feel about what it is. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty excited about it. So why don't you go ahead and fill us in? What do we got? What are we looking at?
So, yes, I'm the ringleader, I guess you could
Of the
say,
circus. Yeah, I love it.
yes, of the circus. I found this book about 6 years ago myself. And at the time, I was in a super dark place. I had kind of given up on a lot of what I had built for myself, and just a lot of my ideas about life. I was like, okay, this isn't working, and I don't know what to do, but I know that I need to do something else. And I kind of removed myself from my environment. I did one of those, like, I'm going to the country to figure it all out. And that's when I found transurfing. And I wasn't like a self-help junkie or into self-development modalities. I'm not of this world. And I think a lot of people are surprised when, they ask me, oh, do you know who Joe Dispenza is? And have you read this? And I'm just like, nope. I mean, now I inform myself about things that I hear people talking about, but what I found, reality transurfing, when I found it, was the exact key that I needed at that moment. So I've never really questioned that there's anything else.
Hmm.
So yeah, I started applying the concepts to my life, and I saw such a distinct shift in my perception so rapidly. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, why isn't this a thing? Why isn't anybody talking about this? Why have, anybody that I asked that was well read, nobody had ever heard of the book. And there, was a small movement going on in Europe and Middle Eastern countries, surprisingly. But I was like, this is it. This is me. This is for me right now. This is for me. This is my door to move through. I'm gonna bring this to the English speaking world, and for the last 5 going on 6 years, that's what my every single day has been about. And it has just been a rocket ship. And I mean, it's just really starting to take off now. I've already seen incredible growth with getting the word out there, but the last year it's been really significant.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's awesome. I think more people need to hear what you have to say. What's interesting to me is you're not of this world, right? Um,
Yeah.
explain on that.
Well, I I grew up poverty level. I just all the limiting beliefs that a human being could have, I carried with me until I was about 35 years old. I still managed to find success,
Mm,
and I found a good deal of success in a business that I had built for myself. I didn't go to college. I didn't even graduate from high school. So there were there have been a lot of moments in my life where people have asked me, like, how have you done this, especially living in a place like Los Angeles. How have you done this? How have you built this? Before I left LA, I was living on a 42-foot sailboat that I bought and learned how to sail single-handedly by myself. And it just blew people's minds. They were like, who are you? How do you have this life? What? And, I learned later when I found transurfing why I had had all those positive experiences, why I had had that success, why I had sort of carved my own path, regardless of the limited nature of what I had been given or my skill set. But at the same time, living that 35 years, I suffered from an extreme poverty mentality, like really, really serious poverty mentality. And I think this is actually what ended up kind of breaking me, because here I was gaining this success and living the life. My boat was in Marina del Rey. I had this bitchin' lifestyle. I was my own boss. My business was successful. Everything was seemingly good. Yet I was just living this weird kind of fear-based thing where I was just constantly worried about what was going to go wrong, what was going to break it, how I was going to continue to thrive, just like, but not in a good way. And I just became increasingly miserable. And at a certain point I was like, okay, I don't get this. I grew up poor. I always told myself if I had money, if I had freedom to do what I want, money to do what I wanted, then I would be happy. And then I had all this stuff. And the more that I got, the more miserable I became. I mean, this is a really old story that we've heard a lot of times, but I actually experienced this, where it was like things seemingly improved in my external reality. Yeah, internally, I was just suffering beyond measure, and that's when it kind of like, it broke.
That's
When
when
I
you found,
got,
that's when you found, I mean, is that the time you found this book?
it was about 6 months before.
6 months before. So you read this book, and I mean, how did you come across it?
One night I was just scrolling through Instagram and I followed this artist, just some random account. And somebody commented in a comment on her picture. They just said, have you ever heard of reality transurfing? And it was like this super weird thing just kind of happened that I can't even explain. I saw the two words and I was
Mhm.
like, it was like a door, like a golden door or a keyhole or something, where I just saw something about my future and I dove right in. There was an audiobook at the time on YouTube, and I was going for these epic long walks at night through Portland. I was living in Portland at the time. And I was listening to this thing and it was just like blowing my mind. It just blew my mind. Anybody that, if you have any listeners that have listened to it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you do listen to it, it'll blow your mind. It's mind blowing.
I can't wait to listen to it. Because we talked about it a little bit before. Reality transurfing, right? It's kind of similar, a similar concept to law of attraction, right? Like, kind of, we had what was it, like a little joke talking about who,
Law of
what,
attraction for
yeah,
smart people.
yeah. Um, but like, I think that's so interesting because, like, I do not believe, like, man, I tell you what, Renee, I've been devouring Dr. David Hawking's
Oh, I
his
love David Hawkins
literature,
now. Yeah.
um, devouring it, and like I can't explain to you, like, his, and for those people listening, you have to read his book. What is it? Force or Power versus Force, or it's either vice versa. I can't remember the name of it. It's if it's Force versus Power, or whatever. But like the concept that we can raise our consciousness to a certain level, and what yeah, his message is it's just so powerful. I mean, it's just so powerful. And
Letting Go is a good one too. I love that
letting
book.
go.
I reference that one a lot. Yeah, Letting Go. And I think that's, so David Hawkins and reality transurfing have a lot of parallels. Transurfing sort of instructs us to lessen the grip of control on ourselves and our realities, our environment, other people, and in giving in to what we call the alternatives flow. This is really focusing on what is being presented to you by your external environment, not you trying to force anything with your will or your ego, letting go, and then just letting your world take you with what you can bring that's unique to you, your skills, your attributes, all the things that you, all the things about who you truly are as an individual. And you bring this, like meeting your world halfway with what your world's presenting. And it's magical. I mean,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I've experienced. And it's really, really magical.
Yeah. Like he was explaining something about, all right, so you have a thought. It's a you have an idea or you have a thought in your brain. It lets off this electric reaction, and then you have this emotion that's tied to it that releases a chemical reaction, and now you're creating this electromagnetic field around your body, energy, and that attracts things into your life. Which I believe 100% because I look at my life and there's no doubt in my mind that I've created it. And we've created this thus far, right? Like you lived your life, you've created this life for yourself. I've created this reality for myself. And I mean, doing it unconsciously, like not even realizing that I'm doing it. And then once you have that
Totally.
idea, like once you have that idea that you can change your reality, like, and people are listening to this right now, like probably, some of them might have an idea about what we're talking about, but most are kind of like probably new and fresh to the idea of you can create your own reality. I mean, like you can't just wish for fucking Ferrari and you get it. I mean, it's like you have to do the work, right? Like you have to be right. You have to have this certain beingness about you, this confidence that you are a part of the bigger picture, of the higher consciousness, and that
Yes.
you align to your being, your your consciousness aligns with the bigger picture, and you can, you can't use this shit for evil. It won't work.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to believe in it and believe that you already are that what you want. And then it's like bringing it forth from the what does he call it? It's like from non-form to form, right?
Yeah.
Calling it
Bringing
out.
it from the quantum field into
Yeah.
physical reality.
Shooting that rocket ship of desire out into the world, and then having that electrical magnetic field around you, just bringing things to you. But that's the thing, right? Like you got to live your life where you're in that same field, that same vibe, that same frequency, so it comes to you. Because like we discussed before in a conversation, it's like, you're driving to California in a car, right? And from Baltimore, and I know it's going to take a long time to get there. I don't get halfway across the country and say, "Oh, you know what? I'm still not there." Like I got to turn around now. I'm not going
Yeah.
to get there. You know that you're eventually going to get there. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, same type of concept, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people don't have what they want, is because the desire is there, but then the other components of creating your own reality are absent, really. And I get so many messages from people and emails, and a lot of them are like, hey, how do I manifest $1 million tomorrow? And I'm just like, dude, really? Like, first of all, you can't, right? Or I mean, I guess it, there's some version of reality where that would happen for somebody, they win the lottery or whatever, but the odds of that, are very low. But I think people have there's a lot of confusion around what it takes to become something, or what it takes to truly have something. They think that they have to do something first and then achieve the thing, and then they can feel the rewards of having whatever it was that they were desiring. It's like a messed up the series of events is messed up. The way that you do it, the way that you tap into wealth, the way that you find the romantic partner, the way that you become successful, is that you actually start living that version of reality prematurely in your mind, in your thoughts, in your actions. You start doing the things that you believe that version of you in that reality that you desire. You start living that now, and the world responds to that and brings you everything that you need to help actually turn that desire into to materialize that desire. And a lot of people get stuck just on the desire. They're like, well, I want $1 million. I want to be rich. I don't want to be, well, and that's the other thing, is a lot of people focus on what they don't want rather than what they want. Well, I don't want to be poor anymore. Well, I don't want to struggle. Well, I don't want to be white trash anymore. Well, I don't want to whatever, right? But if you could just shift your perspective, shift your focus to what you strive to achieve, and really just stay dialed in to the thoughts that you need to have in order to achieve that desire, which is, what sort of thoughts does that version of me have? What's the quality of thinking? What's the direction of thinking? Then the frequency is super important. You can't say I want $1 million, but then tell yourself in your mind that you're poor, because those two realities, they're just not going to match up. And then your actions have to be in line with that version of you, that version of reality. You have to actually take the steps, like you said, driving the car from Maryland to California. You can't say you want to be in California but then never get in the car. And that's where most people kind of are. Or maybe they're in the car but then they don't have
You get scared,
a
maybe,
full tank
like,
of
yeah,
gas.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? You want to be successful, but what if you get there, right? Like, are you scared of what that success will bring? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to change. Are you scared of change? So these things are not going to happen if you don't believe that, if you have these limiting beliefs. So like, if
Yeah.
you want to be, I don't know, like, if you want to be successful or rich, you know what kind of change that's going to bring? Like, you're going to, a lot of people are going to be coming out of the woodwork asking for money, or people are going to be looking at you differently. Oh, he has change. You're going to lose a lot of friends. I mean, but that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know. For me, it's not really necessarily that. It's more so like me trying to change my reality so that way I can grow spiritually, or raise my consciousness to those higher levels that Dr. Hawkins talks about, getting into the 700s, and realizing, like, you don't need any of that shit, man. Like, if you're in that energy level, if you're in that consciousness, like, all the external shit just starts falling off. Like, he talks about in one of his books, like, you get to a certain point where you don't even need that. Like, like, what do you need? Somebody comes up to you, like Renee, you come to me and say, hey, Trey, what do you need? I don't need anything, just,
Yeah.
it's like that. And you have this love. You're like in love with everything. It's not like in love, like, oh, Renee, I'm in love with you. It's like this love, this, like, just kind of like you're looking at like, I look at my kids kind of love, like,
Yeah.
just this love, and just taking in the beauty of everything, getting to that status, like, and just kind of like,
Rather than just desiring
yeah,
stuff that you aren't really taking actions
yeah.
to. Yeah, I mean, I actually have a course called Becoming Magnetic, and that's exactly what I teach. That amplifying love inside of you to increase not only love coming in your direction externally, but also other stuff. And this is where I have, like, a very profound difference in who I am today and who I was pre-reality transurfing. I was a very selfish person. I was a very fearful person, again, focusing on what I didn't like, what I didn't want, picking things apart, picking people apart, picking myself apart. And when I dove into the world of really falling in love with myself, with my reality, with my opportunities, with people that I encounter, with the different things that I do in my life, and really just like, just luxuriating in whatever there is positive there, I've gotten so much stuff flowing in my direction now. It's stupid, you know, and I would never, this is, this is how I know this absolutely does work because, you know, it's, I haven't done anything truly exceptional except I found a goal that was intended for me. I'm taking actions towards that goal, which is spreading the word of reality transurfing. And I'm just living a pure version of myself, and I'm being open to the people that I encounter and my world, you know, and it's pretty simple. And the rewards have been immeasurable, you know, really, really immeasurable.
That's awesome. Like I just I love hearing that. Like, did you have to like for me, right? Like I did listen to Joe Dispenza. That's when I first I mean, I kind of listen I learned, I think I can't remember if what movie it was, The Secret or something. Like I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what the law of attraction was. And
Yeah.
here I didn't fully understand it. And what helped me understand it more was Dr. Joe Dispenza. It was more so him going into the neuroscience of this cell, right? Like the epigenetics, the unconscious and consciousness of your cells at a molecular level, like at the very micro level of our bodies is pure energy. And people just I don't know. It's just like all the programming that we've grown up with to think that we're
Mm,
not, like we
yeah.
are energy and like, you know, attracts the same, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah.
attracts like. It's just like
Totally.
what you put out comes back to you. What you damns you back, as Paul Selig says. And it's like I totally agree with it. And it wasn't until I started learning about quantum physics, started learning about the quantum realm, where I started saying, "Oh, like this makes sense. Like this, I can totally see this happening." And like I'm currently in the practice of trying to, I wouldn't say trying. I am in the process of creating my reality, like not just creating it, but changing it, like
Changing.
manipulating it, right? Being that creator of my universe, right?
Yes.
And you're seeing the results. Like, can you give people like a practice, a method they can use to put into their everyday use right now? Like, how do
Oh,
you do that? Is it
goodness.
meditation or is it like,
No, no, it doesn't have anything to do with meditation. You know, there are a number of steps. We have something we're doing right now in our Facebook group, which is really a miraculous place for being Facebook. Everybody is super inspiring. There's 6,000 people in there right now. 5,700 of them are active. So that's like, you know, people are into it. And everybody's just really positive, doing super cool stuff and really taking this knowledge to the next level. And we have a challenge in there right now. It's called Quantum Boot Camp. And what Quantum Boot Camp is, it's a 30-day media cleanse.
ooh,
So media and social media that's negative or destructive, only positive in your feed or nothing at all. And then we have something called the 30 Anomalous Action Challenge. And that is for for 30 consecutive days. Each day you take one step outside of your comfort zone in a direction that's new to you. It could be anything. It could be doing research on a business idea that's been in the back of your mind for a while. It could be networking with someone that, you know, you've been a little bit shy to network with. It could be driving a different way to work, switching up your exercise routine, changing your diet. It could be just anything. Maybe something's asked of you from somebody in your environment, and instead of you saying no, you say yes, right? So there's a couple of other points, but those are the two main points: the media cleanse and the anomalous action challenge. And what this does is it pulls your energy away from powers that be that are sucking a lot of people's energy right now in really, really negative and destructive ways, like really captivating people to the extent where they kind of forget about their own reality and they get sucked into this other reality that's being created for them. And then once you've sort of pulled yourself away from some of the biggest distractions, then you have a little more energy to put in new direction, right? To step in new direction. So once you get on the roll of doing that, your reality just kind of opens up and opportunities really start to exponentially increase, like really, obviously, like things start to shift. And I think a lot of it happens because what you were talking about, like, we're energy, right? And we're frequency. So when you start mixing it up in your reality and you're taking new action and you're encountering new things, you become curious and you become a little more alive. And when this happens, you start attracting more that's going to agree with this way that you're feeling. And it just kind of snowballs. And some of the people in the Facebook group are seeing like amazing results doing this quantum boot camp. We're in like day 10 of day 30 right now. It ends on December 31st, because January 1st is our first official Transurfers holiday. So we have like a whole thing we're doing. But to talk about steps, the book is quite large, right? It's I have it here to show anyone that's watching this. It's
Holy
quite big.
shit. How
Yeah,
big is that?
it's
How many
big.
pages?
It's I think it's 8. It's 767.
So how, like, who the author, right? Like we talked about this before. You said he's very elusive, right? Like he doesn't want any attention. He doesn't want people to, I guess, worship him in a way, right? Like to
Yep.
uh, make this a religion or something like that.
A lot of people believe he doesn't exist. A lot
Mhm.
of, there's a lot of like speculation and theory of who he is. I mean, he's my friend, so I know he
I know
exists.
him. We're cool.
Yeah, I know. He's a real person. I've met him in person. He does exist, but he does not want, the name on the book is not his name, a real name. He's used a name that's not his, and he does not want any
Is that a real picture of
fame.
him? Like in like some other, I think looking for him, is that
Yes.
his picture?
Yep, that's his picture. That's him.
Okay.
But he doesn't want any fame. He doesn't want any, and he's like, okay, Renee, you do you do the book, you do the promotion, you do the face of the book. So yeah, I mean, it's a big book. But here's the thing with the book. I know a lot of people see the book for the first time. They're like, holy shit, I can't read that. Well, first of all, we have the audiobook. Second, I have a ton of videos that breaks down all the different concepts in the book. But the book, really only the first fifth of the book is the new knowledge. After that, it's just reiteration, saying it in different ways, and pitching it to you in different kind of how to apply it practically in your mind. So it's kind of like the first part of the book is to educate you on the concepts. The rest of the book is reprogramming your brain to think in this new way.
Mhm.
It's like reality 2.0. It's a completely different way of viewing yourself, your reality, and your relationship to your reality. And a lot of people, the suntan effect, they read a book, they love it, and they put it up on the shelf, and within a matter of weeks or months, it just fades into the background. Transurfing stays with people because of the way that it was written and what it actually opens your eyes to, what you the insights are very, very unforgettable.
Yeah, people forget, like, we've been programs, in our reality here our entire lives. I mean, essentially, you and I are like right around the same time. Like, I was 35, I'm 37 now. I was 35 right around the time that like I started questioning consciousness and the higher being and what it is that we're here for. Um, and I think people hear that and they're like, "Oh, what you trying to? You're brainwash us. And it's like, no, it's writing, overriding that program that you've been taught, right? Like if you think about it, everything that you've been taught has
You're
come from
already
somebody.
brainwashed.
Yeah.
You're already
Yeah. I mean,
brainwashed.
that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, they just don't understand. Like, I don't know. So like I'm still learning, like I'm still evolving, I'm still expanding, I'm still, I'm not saying I know everything. But I know what I am, right? Like I know where, what I am. I am this source of energy that wants to expand and does that through knowledge, right? And that is what I tell people. Like, if don't just take my word for it, go out and research this stuff for yourself. Look at quantum physics, follow Renee, try this stuff and see what it does for you. Look at, Dr. Hawkins. His content is just phenomenal. This dude is an MD and a PhD, right? Like he knows his stuff. Like he has been
Oh yeah,
published
he
so
was a
many times,
brilliant mind.
like these are actual academic geniuses that are out there putting this information out, and we choose not to listen to it because, like, obviously people want to keep us in that fear state and want to control us. And it's like, once you see what it is that you really are and what you're capable of, like, you can there's no going back to that.
The power of choice. And I think that that's what has been lost, is this society that we're living in, and the entities that want to, convince us that this is the way it is, and this is the truth, right? And you must adhere to these standards, and you've got to be like this if you want to be a good person, and if you don't, then you're a bad person. And there's all this, like, there's all this stuff going on with corralling us into a collective state of being dazed and confused. The entities don't want us to be informed that we have the ability to choose our own reality, to choose our own perspective, to choose our own, level of awareness. And you touched on it earlier, and I wanted to say something about it. The idea that your reality now is a collective of your past thought patterns and actions, and they've culminated up until this moment. And that is how your reality was created. When people, contact me and they're like, how do I start creating my own reality today? I'm like, dude, you've been creating your own reality this whole time. Like, what you're experiencing right now is your creation, right? If you want something bigger and better for yourself, then I know a way, right? But first, the acknowledgement of what you've already done, good and bad, right? A reconciliation or a reckoning, like what has gotten you to the place where you're, sometimes, desperate to create a new reality for yourself. I know I was. But I had to really look at what I had done that had put me in a place where I so desperately wanted a new reality, that I needed answers, that I needed to, rise up, and I needed to gain some awareness about certain things. And reality transurfing is definitely what helped me what helped me do that. But it's kind of like that moment where you realize you've been creating your own reality all along, when you kind of like, get shown this information, and then it's like, oh Jesus Christ, I see it now. I see exactly what's got me here, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's a trip.
It's like watching a movie now, right? Like, just kind of like sitting back watching, like, just things happen, interactions happen. But I mean, it's being aware of like what your body is doing to the ego, right? The ego. I mean, we are evolved the way that we are for survival. I mean, our basic need is survival, and the ego was developed out of that, and it doesn't want to lose a hold of that, right? Like, it doesn't want to lose
Totally.
that. It doesn't. It tells you the shit that you don't want to hear. Like, why are you listening to Trey and Renee, man? Like, we're cool. Like, why are you listening to this? Like, we don't need to change our reality. We're good right where we're at.
Totally. Totally, you know, and reality transurfing has the answer of exactly what that, why the ego is doing that. We call it inner intention. It's your mind, it's your you know, your will. It's you thinking, I've got the answers, right? I got the answers. I just gotta do it harder,
Mhm.
do it more, do it faster, do it, you know, but I got the answers. I gotta do it this, you know, this way. And then something maybe will happen down the line. I'm doing the right thing, or this is all I have, and kind of like accepting your lot, right? That's another way that the ego just kind of like keeps control of the situation, but sort of in a very limited belief kind of way. Well, this is what you've been given, so you better make do,
Mm.
right? But there's a total other place to work from, and this is it's not about turning the voice of your ego down. It's about tuning in to that other voice, and it kind of drowns out
Mm.
the ego's voice. And once you switch over, then anytime the ego starts doing its thing, you're like,
It's a
nah,
fucking ego.
doesn't work anymore.
No, that true voice, right? Like your higher self, that higher self is that voice, right? Like that I can tune into it now, like through meditation. I can tune into my higher voice. It's not my ego. My ego is a fucking dickhead.
Yeah.
But like you said, right? Like it's always trying to be that competition because that is the genetic makeup of my body. Is that's how I survived. I say but human race has
Humans,
survived,
yes.
right? Like through survival is through competition, through being the biggest, the baddest, badass, and it's just being aware of that. Like, I mean, even like depression and
Totally.
anxiety and like all of
Oh,
that chemical
absolutely.
reactions that going on in your body, it's your fucking body. Like, I'm not like I struggle with depression and anxiety too. But what really, really helped me was realizing what the body is doing. The
Yes.
body is releasing these chemicals into your body that is cortisol and some, a shit ton of others. And it's like, man, I'm feeling like shit. I can't come out of this. Like, what is going on? There's something wrong with me. No, there's not anything wrong with you. It is, your body is chemically reacting to your environment. And
Yeah.
you have to be aware of that. Anxiety has saved us over decades and decades and decades of
Oh,
evolution, right?
totally. I talk about that all the time on my channel. I'm like, fear and anxiety and worry is what actually allowed us to evolve as a species. Because had we not, you know, if we were, you know, cave people looking down at the pretty fucking flower on the ground and like, oh, isn't life great, you know, we wouldn't have
Yeah,
had
you would be
all
dead.
this, yeah, all those chemicals, fight or flight, you know, being hyper aware of your environment, all that stuff. But that's we've our environment has evolved, we haven't yet, right? So we're still fear, anxiety, you know, stress hormones and all this stuff. And once you do wake up to that, you can kind of just like see it for what it is when it's going down, and it doesn't fuck with you anymore,
Yeah,
you
but we're
know?
in a worse situation now than we were back when we were fucking cave people because like we have like, this new technology that we're always in fight or flight all the time. Like, we got fucking work emails going off at 9 p.m. You got more access, right? Like we don't have that saber-tooth tiger attacking us. We have social anxieties now, right? Like trying to
Totally.
be the best. We're trying to be influencers. I got a free hat because people like me on Instagram. Like, just like that ego that is just driving us because they want us to. It's like uh,
Competition.
my kids go to private school, right? Like not because of ego, but because that we believe that they're receiving a different type of education that we prefer. That is the only reason why. And it's funny going to that school and seeing the cars with all the stickers all over them, and I'm like, ego, 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 ego. You still,
Yeah.
you can drive down the street and see all of the the different types of stickers and immediately see ego, ego, ego. Like, it's just like being aware, just wake the fuck up. Like,
I know.
like,
I know. Believe me, but here's the thing about that. At a certain point, it's like, it's kind of hard hitting when you first realize it and you're like, oh my God, it's so fucked up. And oh, look at all these people that, are so ego driven. And look at how sad all these people are that they're striving for stuff that they don't even really want, stuff that isn't even going to really make them happy in the end. And they'll find that out. Right. And kind of like seeing that. And I don't mean this in a condescending way, but like you can start to see the patterns that most people fall into, and you can start to see the destructive stuff that ensues. Like, yeah, you got all the stuff that you wanted, and now you're consuming way more alcohol nightly than you ever have, right? And you're not sleeping that well. And but wait a second, didn't you want all this, and then this disconnect, this disjointed way that a lot of people are living. And at a certain point for me, when I remember, it happened very, very clearly for me. I was at some international airport, I think it was in Amsterdam or something, and I was sitting on a bench and I was watching, like, hundreds of people pass by me, and I was just seeing them with totally open eyes. And I could see like the worry, the fear, the just discontent, all these negative emotions. I could barely pinpoint anybody in the crowd that resembled anything close to being happy. And I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. But then at a certain point, it flipped for me. And I started to kind of see it as entertaining. And I know that probably sounds a little sick, but I'm a little bit of a nihilist. I love nihilistic and pessimistic philosophy, because I feel like it kind of puts everything back into its place. And that is really that life is absolutely meaningless. The only meaning that life really has is the meaning that you assign to it. The only meaning that anything has is the meaning that you assign to it. There is no predetermined meaning. Nobody has set any meaning on anything. We are a blip in space and time that is going to extinguish in the grand cosmic scheme of things. Probably, we're just like a little flash, right? And when you can kind of like bring it to this place and really just view it for what it is, it's nothing. It's nothing. And I know this is like, people are going to be like, oh my God, that's crazy. But when you can look at it like that, then when you see depression, anxiety, people acting from ego, people suffering, all this kind of stuff, it just brings it all down. And you're like, it's okay. It's okay if you have anxiety and you have depression. And I know this is a challenge when people are going through this stuff. My God, I had immense struggles and challenges with anxiety and depression. Horrible. I was hospitalized a number of times for depression that was so bad I couldn't even move. I would just freeze. And there was just so much wrong. And now, fast forward 25 years later, 20 years later, I can see that all that quote unquote wrong stuff was really just only assigned wrong in my mind, or was some bullshit external programming that I allowed to layer on top of who I really am as a person. And once I realized that my thoughts were my enemy at the time, and the external programming was my enemy, then I could start to work to take that stuff off. And then miraculously, there's no more depression and anxiety, But I mean, once in a while, I still get, I have family stuff going on. My sister's got stage 3 breast cancer with 3 young kids, and going through nightmare chemo and all that stuff. So I definitely have my down days, and once in a while I'll be like, oh my god, where's it all going? But
Mhm.
whatever, it's all good, right? It's not that important. And I know that probably sounds very, very cold, but it's kind of how I see it, and that perspective has helped me immensely.
Well, let me ask you this. So, God forbid something happened to you. Like, how do you approach that? Right? Like, that mindset that you're talking about. Like, say if you get injured or you get sick, like your sister is. Like, how do
Yeah.
you approach that situation?
Well, we have something in transurfing, we call it advantage. And what advantage is it's a belief that transurfers hold that
Mhm.
every event that happens for us. There is some benefit, there is some gain. So either you can pinpoint that advantage and you can see it, either if you're very lucky in the moment or shortly after. Like, this would be a scenario like you're driving down the highway and you get a flat tire, and your non-transurfing mind would be like, god damn it, I got a flat tire, why does this always happen to me? But a transurfer would get out of the car and see that the tire was flat and be like, perfect, thank you. Right. And then maybe like you get the tire fixed and you start going down the road and you see that there was a 10-car pileup that you weren't involved in. Right. Okay, that's why I had the flat tire. There was a really good story that I heard a couple of weeks ago on a documentary where this woman her mother was in a concentration camp back in the Holocaust, and she had lost everybody. She had lost her whole family, and they had taken everything from her, and she befriended this older woman who became like her emotional support, her everything. And one day they gathered them all up and they put them into a line, and one by one they either chose the people to go to one side or the other. Well, when the two women got up to the officer, he said, go to this side. So both the women started to go to the one side he directed them to, and another officer came out and grabbed the younger woman and threw her in the other direction. And she was very distraught. She didn't want to be separated from her friend. So she started cursing and crying and saying, why? And the guy threw her again. And she went off in the direction that he put her. And then later she learned that all the people that were going in that direction were sent to the gas chamber. So, and I had something really bad happen to me right before I found transurfing. And at the time, I thought it was the absolute worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And now I realize, looking at it retrospectively, it was the best thing that happened to me, because it broke me, and I needed to be broken. I needed to be broken so then I could start building and recovering and doing the things that I've done that have built my life now, right? So advantage is a huge concept in the transurfing modality, and it makes things so easy. It's like even down to little things, like you get to the grocery store and there's a long line, and you walk up and you're like, fuck, I don't want it. But then you're like, wait a second, nope, this is perfect. This is exactly what I need. And when you can start, so getting back to what you were talking about, the cellular level and the energy and the frequency and all that stuff, when you can really start resonating at a frequency that everything is working for you in your world, amazing things start to happen. Your world starts working for you. Everything starts working for you. And even if it's not, you're totally fine with it, and it doesn't mess up your flow.
Yeah.
So what I like to say is, things don't happen to me, they happen for me. Everything's happening for me every moment.
Yeah. I can look back on everything and say, I'm glad that that happened, right? Like if you can't look back and say, I'm glad that happened because I got something out of it, then you're not through it yet. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Um,
You missed it.
Yeah, or you missed yeah. I mean, I mean, you're just not through it. You're just not, you haven't learned that lesson, what you're supposed to be. You're either too attached to it and you can't see it because you're still emotionally attached and you're still 30 years, you know, 30 years ago something happened and you can't get over it. Like there's a lesson to be learned, and life has a habit of repeating itself. So you won't evolve as a spiritual being, as consciousness, until you learn that lesson. And you take lifetimes, right? Like I just feel that, you know.
Oh, totally. I totally agree. And I talk a lot about pain. I actually have a video coming out on my YouTube channel tomorrow called Positive Pain, and this is the pain that is, the wall that it's hard sometimes for people to push through. But if you can acknowledge that that pain is there to help you accomplish something. It's there to help you grow. It's there to help you learn something or achieve a higher state of being. And if you can start shifting it over to this new perspective in your mind, anytime you encounter anything painful, you're like, oh yeah, this is good. This is really good. Bring it. Now I'm like, you know I talk about this stuff a lot, and every the people that like it, they love it. I do get the occasional like, that's sick, and I'm like, well, what's the alternative? You run from pain every time you encounter something that's painful, or you stare it in the face and you go through it, and then when you get to the other side, you
Yeah,
laugh.
well,
And
Viktor Frankl taught, he he learned, or he developed the practice of logotherapy through the concentration camp. How are you going to decide? You have the choice, you have the decision. How are you going to approach that problem? Like, are you going to be the victim? Or are you going to be, have the mindset of they're not going to get, they're never going to get that. How do I put this? They're never going to get the best of me, right? Like they're never going to get
yeah,
that. They're never going to have that choice. You can take everything away from me, my freedom, my health, my clothes, my dignity, but you're never
take
going
it
to take that
all.
choice. You're never going to get, I'm going to make that choice. So you're not going to get the best of me.
Totally.
Do you ever talk about like that thing that broke you?
I do. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about it extensively. But yeah, it's, to a lot of people, it probably won't sound that crazy. I wasn't like victim of a violent attack or anything like that. What happened was I have this health condition called hereditary angioedema. Well, I had it, I don't have it anymore. And I really attribute transurfing. I just transurfed to another reality where I don't have it anymore. But it started to flare up right around 35. And essentially what it does is it releases your body releases a larger amount of histamines, and people either have their hands or their feet or their eyes like really swell up very, very big. Mine was my face. So this happened a few times, and the doctors really couldn't figure out how to stop it. It was very painful and it would last for a long time. The downtime was just, I mean, my life kind of shut down. And they put me on a common steroid called prednisone, and I had a bad reaction to the prednisone. It essentially plunged me into like a really, really manic state where I didn't sleep for I think it was about 35 days when I was finally hospitalized, and I was convinced that I was never going to sleep again. I was living by myself in Los Angeles at the time, and the the series of medication that I was on was only for a couple of weeks. So it had ended, but the symptoms of everything, all the mania and the insomnia and it was nightmarish. I didn't attribute what I was going through to that. I didn't consider that. So I actually thought that I was just losing my mind. So I thought I was just plunging into madness. And every night was like the sun would start to go down and I would start panicking, and I would lay in bed at night and I would just kind of like run through, okay, so did it go wrong? When, okay, so then this thing happened, and then how did you respond? And then I just was like over analyzing the hell out of everything, trying to figure out where it had gone so wrong. And one morning I woke up and couldn't couldn't really, there was times I could kind of grasp what had happened. Other times it was very elusive and ambiguous. I couldn't make sense. And I mean, obviously I wasn't in a state of mind to be trying to evaluate my life at that point. But I just woke up one morning, got out of bed, up all night. I actually prayed to God for the first time in my life. I got on my knees and I was like, God, I don't know what is going on, but please help me. Just help me, whatever. I just need help. And that sunrise, I got out of bed and I was like, this is it. I made myself a cup of coffee. I packed a single suitcase, threw it into the back of my car, and I left Los Angeles, and I never went back except to get the rest of my stuff. And I I gave it all up. 15 years of building a life, I just drove away from it. And yeah, it was like, so this is what I'm talking about. At the time, when I left and I went up to my parents' house, my parents saw the state that I was in. I plunged, my weight went way down. I was like 100 pounds. They saw me, they were like, Jesus Christ. And then my mom was like, we need to take you to the hospital. And really quickly, they discovered that, it was the prednisone that had caused this state, just everything. I was having brain zaps. If you've ever heard of what those are, they're horrible. Oh, it's a nightmarish thing. But at the time, after I got out of the hospital, I was like, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And the worst part of it was, I had this incredible fear of ever going back to Los Angeles. I associated LA with all my pain and anxiety and all this stuff. So I couldn't go back. And I didn't want to go back, but I also couldn't go back. And I thought, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. My life is destroyed. And, then I found the knowledge that I did, and I realized this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's like, it was so polarized. It was an amazing experience. It was truly an amazing experience. Seeing yourself through something like that, where that level of trauma and anxiety and all that stuff, and getting through that to the other side, I mean, nothing phases me now. I'm just like, bring it. I can do I'm fucking bulletproof now. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what happens in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Um, I could talk to you all night. How can
I appreciate
people,
that.
yeah, how can people find out more about you and reality transurfing?
So we've got lots of stuff. This is 6 years of me creating, you know, whatever way you like to learn. You could listen to the audiobook, you could purchase the book on Amazon. My YouTube channel, Transurfing TV, has almost 600 videos of me talking about transurfing. I give a lesson every single day of some way to apply one of the concepts practically to your life. We have a very active, thriving Facebook group. I'm on Instagram, reality_transurfing. The Facebook group is the International Transurfing Institute, which I founded about 4 years ago. Yeah, transurfing.us for the website. There's lots of information on there. We have a teachable course that kicked off this year and has been really, really amazing. Lots of people have joined that. It's called Reality 2.0. And yeah, I mean, social media, coming onto the Facebook group, I try to interact with everybody on there. I'm a very active member myself, and obviously Transurfing TV is kind of where it's at with getting daily content in short little, precise videos. It's coming along. We're almost at 10,000. It's been 1 year of me doing that, and I've got 600 videos and almost 10,000 people in 1 year. So I'm very happy about it.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
When it's all said and done with, like, what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I mean, I've kind of given up on the idea of a legacy. That's sort of what got me here in the first place. I woke up one morning shortly after I left Los Angeles, and I had a good amount of money in my bank and low overhead, and kind of was just on this easy street where I didn't really have much to be worried about. But I got out of the shower one morning and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, this is great and all, but what are you doing for others? And what are you going to leave behind? You don't have kids. You're just kind of going to selfishly like cakewalk the rest of your life. How pathetic. And that's when I decided that, once I found this knowledge, that I wanted to help lead others to the knowledge and help them apply it. And that fueled me for a long time. And it did a lot to keep me motivated. But now, and again, I know this probably sounds a little bit nihilistic. If I were to something was to happen to me tomorrow, I would be totally okay with it. And I really don't care. I really don't care. I think it's more about the sense that I heard this thing once. Somebody said, I can't remember where, I think it was on a podcast or something, but this person said that before you die, there's a 3-second feeling. It lasts for 3 seconds, where essentially the essence of who you were as a person and how you lived your life is felt super intensely for 3 seconds right before you die. And this really stuck with me. And at the time that I heard this, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to feel that. Right. But now I've been doing enough, doing what I can do, doing what I'm called to do without fear, without hesitation, to the extent that I know that feeling's going to feel really fucking good, and that feeling, that 3-second feeling is what I'm in this for. That's what I'm doing it for, is that 3-second feeling. Is that messed up?
No, that's awesome. I love it. I love that perspective. I think that's very unique, and I love I love hearing that kind of stuff. Renee, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining the show. I think this is going to be pretty epic. I think this is going to help people out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Trey. This was really a pleasure, and I really appreciate the conversation, and hope you find your way to whatever knowledge, you seek out. I think that you're doing God's work here and trying to help people connect with, what they need to connect with too. And that's the best that we can really do, I think, is just help each other out and try to spread the love when we can.
Mhm.